Hello, Jenny Lytle. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much, Elisha. I appreciate being able to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Jenny, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Jenny, for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invested in yourself. And oftentimes, Jenny, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Jenny, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Jenny. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day. I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Jenny that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you are doing. Your philosophies, your insight, the impact your work is having, and how you are offering your solutions. These stuff so beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, Jenny, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from those beautiful things Jenny is doing. And not only me now, but even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Jenny. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elijah could do about it. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I appreciate you reaching out, and I took a listen to a couple of your episodes and thought, well, you know what, I like what he's doing too. And it's funny, Elisha, because I do love the whole mango story. I went on a mission trip to
Oh,
Jamaica a couple
really?
years ago, and we had these mango trees that were on this property where we stayed, and it was and so we had them like every morning for breakfast, and we'd be out in the chapel area. It was like outdoors, and it was, we could see like the ocean on one side and the mountains
Oh,
on the other, and it was so
amazing.
gorgeous, and like the presence of God was so strong there. And then these mangoes would just fall. We called them our manna mangoes. They would just fall from the sky, and they were incredible. So I love me some mangoes now.
Beautiful, and thank you for sharing that. I love that. Thank you so much. You see, Jenny, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, Jenny, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information. And you see, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance. I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Jenny on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, Jenny, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So those folks trust me for quality, high opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Jenny, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Jenny got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Jenny, over to you.
All right. So, like you said, I am Jenny Lytle. I am a nurse. I've been a nurse for 31 years now, and 20 years of that has been in hospice and end of life care. So, I've got a lot of experience that way. And then in terms of my own personal journey, which led me on a different professional road as well, I went through some burnout with my nursing career and just life in general. And that really, it made me question a lot of things. And I had to dig in and figure out like who I was and what I really wanted. And it took a lot of time and effort and money. And I wish it could have been a little quicker, but that's what has really inspired me to help other people along that path. Because a year after I went through my burnout journey, my mom passed away suddenly.
So
And
sorry.
she was thank you. Thank you. She was a nurse as well. And she was somebody who just gave to everybody, like a lot of us do, a lot of us that are caregiving types, whether it be, nurses or people that are in some other type of caring role, or just those of us who really care about people and give a lot. It's if we're not taking time to refill our own cup, then we can end up burned out and exhausted, and then we're not any good to anybody, including ourselves. And that's kind of where I was. And so that's how I ended up here. Is now I love working with people on similar journeys to help them, maybe not make the same mistakes that I made, or if they do, to be able to, get clarity and get life back on track more quickly and easily.
And that's so beautiful. And that's one of the traits of a true leader. You see, you're so amazing, Jenny. Thank you so very much for the wonderful stuff you're doing. And sorry about your mom. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah, I feel like a lot of people needs to understand what self-care means. Why self-care
Mhm.
is essential. So can you talk to us about that? Why is self-care essential and not selfish?
Sure. So, that's one of the things that I hear from a lot of the people that I talk to is that they feel like it's selfish, or, that they'll get around to it later. But and I felt that way too. I mean, honestly, I had so many other people that were counting on me and so many other things to do that I thought, well, when I get done with that, then I'll take care of myself. But the reality is, if we're not taking care of ourselves, then eventually, our body will start giving us little signs that we're pushing too hard, that we're not doing the things that we need to do for ourselves. But if we continue to ignore those, then it keeps getting a little louder. And eventually, we can find ourselves in a position where we're really not able to do much, as far as helping others, and definitely not helping ourselves. And so I've come to realize that if we're people who want to be able to show up and serve others and help others in some way, and it doesn't have to be, in a professional role, it doesn't have to be, like a hands-on caregiver, like a nurse or a doctor, but it can be, just any of us. I mean, we're all, or not we're all, I guess, but most of us, I think, really want to help other people, to impact other people in some way. And if we're going to be able to continue to do that, we've got to take care of ourselves, because it's that pouring from an empty cup. If we don't have anything to give, then how can we share our gifts with other people?
That's so true. In other words, you cannot give what you don't have. So if you want to
Mhm.
love
Mhm.
others now, you must love yourself first. I got that.
Absolutely.
That's a smart
Absolutely.
one. So what about this one? Where can someone start with self care?
Well, and I feel like that's where my approach is different, because I felt like there were times when I would see, where I'd hear about self care, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't have time for spa days and bubble baths all the time. But it's so much more than that. But at the same time, it's less than that. It doesn't have to be anything big. Going on vacation or going to the spa, those are all great things. But it's the little things that we incorporate in our lives on a day to day basis that really can make so much difference. So things like, stopping to take a few deep breaths. We go from one thing to the next, and we don't take time to do those simple things that, when we first hear them, it's like, well, I know I need to get good sleep, and I need to eat, and I need to exercise, and I need to breathe. But we can know those things, but knowing and doing can be two very different things. And so it's figuring out, yes, the basic things like that, but then what are the things that really fill me up? Like I know that I like to be outside in nature. That's something that really helps me. I like to journal and I, sometimes I journal a lot, sometimes I journal a little, but I know that those things are beneficial to me. I like spending time with God outside and doing, maybe I'm reading some devotionals or just going for a walk and just like taking all of that in. But it's those things that I know really fill me up. And, and Elisha, those may be very different things for you, but it's taking the time to figure out like, what is it that makes me feel better? When I do this, then I feel, calmer and more peaceful and more energetic and happier, more joyful, versus the things that when I do these things, it just kind of puts me in a bad mood or it brings me down. And it's the same with people, there's people that just make us feel better when we're around them. And then there's ones that are kind of exhausting. And so it's figuring that out and then figuring out how to work within that, because sometimes those exhausting people are people that we have to be around, at least part of the time. So being able to figure that energy out and giving ourselves some grace with it for sure.
Beautiful. So discovering the little things that makes us feel better. I got that. Thank you so much. So what about this one? What unique challenges do Christians face in self-care?
Well, I believe that as Christians, we hear that we're to be serving other people. We've got to lay down our life and serve others. And I agree with that to a certain extent, but I also believe that in order to be able to do that, we have to take care of ourselves. And I am not a Bible scholar by any means, but the thing that really stands out to me is, Jesus said that the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God above all else, and then to love your neighbor as yourself. And so I think that a lot of us hear that I've got to love my neighbor as myself. So I'm going to do all of these things for my neighbor. But the thing is, lots of us are willing to do things for other people, but not for ourselves. And so, we miss that as ourselves component. And so I'm not a fan of selfishness, but I believe that when we take care of ourselves, then we're able to show up better for other people. Taking care of me doesn't mean I'm neglecting everybody else. It actually means that I have the capacity to care for other people and show up for them.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I got that. That's a profound one. So what inspired you to write Self-Care Isn't Selfish?
Well, I knew that I knew I had a book in me. I knew it was going to come out at some point. And it's something that had been kind of bouncing around in there for several years. And last year, over the summer, I thought, you know what? It's time. And so I sat down and started writing it, and I'd had some things pulled together, and I, had little bits here and there. And I, over the course of about 2 months, I was like, I just buckled down and got it done. And so I wanted something that was going to be easy to read, that was going to be accessible to people who, maybe weren't too sure about this whole self-care thing. And I wanted it to be a way for people who maybe chose to never work with me or, work with a coach in any capacity, where they could easily get this and do some things on their own as well. And so it's a short read. It's practical strategies. It's my story and kind of some of the why I believe that self-care matters so much. But then it's simple things that you can kind of pick and choose from and see, what resonates with you and what doesn't, in order to be able to put together your own self-care plan so that you already have that in place when you get stressed. Because, when it comes a time when we're so overwhelmed and stressed out with everything, that's not the time to figure out how to de-stress. We need to kind of have that plan in place a little bit beforehand, at least have some general background and ideas going on in our mind, so that we're able to go, okay, you know what? I had planned, if something like this happened, because we all deal with stress, it's part of life. But knowing the things that if my stress level is way up here and I want to bring it down, then I know these couple of things usually work pretty well for me. And having that already in your mind and knowing that that's what that needs to look like the next time you start feeling stressed out and overwhelmed.
And overwhelmed. I got that. And I feel like everyone needs to get your book. It sounds like a powerful one. Okay, so we have two more
Well,
to
thank
go.
you.
Yeah. So
Sure.
you invented something, and it is called the becoming method. So what is the becoming
Yes.
method, and how does it help?
Yes. So, like I said, when I went through my own burnout journey, it took me a while to figure out, like, how do I get out of this? How do I figure out what matters to me? And so being a nurse for so long, I'm familiar with the nursing process, which is a way of looking at things systematically, so that it's a way of being able to, when you're looking at a problem or a situation with a patient, then, each time you're kind of looking at it, step by step by step. And so I created the Becoming Method loosely based on that, and partly because the name of my company is Becoming Your Best with Jenny Lytle RN. But each letter has its own meaning. So, like, B is baseline. So, when I'm working with a client, if we're going through the full process, then that looks like, where are you now? Because, you need to know where you're starting before you jump in. And we a lot of times don't take the time to do that. And then each letter is a step-by-step plan to help clients really figure out, what is it that matters most to them? What are the things that get them excited? What kind of things have they done well? That's where the confidence part comes in. And so it's each thing building on each other, and doing that in a way so that it's not something that takes a lot of time. It does take some effort, but it's a way to be able to really get that transformation that my clients are looking for, in terms of being able to go from being stressed out and not knowing what to do, to really putting together a good plan for what they want the rest of their lives to look like.
Beautiful. And that's a great approach. Thank you for creating that. So finally, what advice would you give a woman who is trying so hard to hold it all together?
Mm. Well, my first, and this is going to be, probably an eye roll one, but first I would just say, you know what? Sometimes you don't need to hold it all together. So if you need to just, lock yourself in a room and cry, then go ahead and do that for a bit. And then just slow down, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just really let yourself feel what you're feeling, without guilt, without those feelings of failure, without, all of that judgment that it's so easy to put on ourselves. And then the question that I love to ask myself, I encourage my clients to ask themselves. And actually, I just was listening to a book on self-compassion that kind of had a tweak on this question as well. But it's, what do I need most right now? And it's sometimes, especially if I'm really worked up, I may have to ask myself that several times, because, my instinct will be, I don't know, or, well, I need this and I need this and I need this. But if you just keep on and, just keep breathing, keep asking, then there's going to be something that's going to bubble up that is like, and generally it's pretty simple. I need to feel heard. I need to take a nap. I need to, I need to just stop for a few minutes. And so it's trusting that, like, our bodies know what we need, but we have to take the time to listen to them.
I got that. So for folks who would like to reach out to you, Jenny, or learn more about the beautiful stuff you're doing, or even make a purchase of your book, how can that be possible?
Yes, the easiest way is to go to my website. It is jennylytle.com, and that's JennyLytle.com. And there you can see about my book. I've got lots of free resources, including a free digital copy of my book that listeners can go and download from there, and also ways to work with me, and just some other free resources as well that can be very helpful for anybody who is dealing with some stress or just needs a little boost.
Beautiful, beautiful, and thank you for that. So that's going to be the end of the show, Jenny. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Elisha. I appreciate it.
That was a beautiful